Sports Card Podcast, where we tackle the hobby's hottest topics in depth to help you navigate the sports card landscape and enjoy the hobby we all love. Here's your host, John Newman.
All right, welcome to another edition of Hobby Quick Hits. Today's episode is going to be pertaining to just some post-national thoughts, just kind of the really wrap it up. I haven't done that on this show, and even on our big show, Sports Card Nation, I talk more about what I did than my thoughts. So I'm going to use this shorter show, kind of things I saw, observed, where I think we're at in the hobby and that sort of thing. So, but before we get to that, let's hear from our great sponsor, Mojo Breaks. Hey folks, wanted to tell you about the best place to get some of your sealed sports card wax products. Great selection and some of the lowest prices on the web. MojoBreakShop.com is that place. Whether it's a box or a whole case, they're your guys, and they ship around the world right to your door. The Mojo Break name is one of the most trusted in the hobby. From sports cards to Pokemon, their selection can't be beat. They offer daily deals and pre-orders. Who won first place at this year's Topps Rip Party? None other than Mojo Break. Their prices are already great, but here's a way to save even more money. Use the code QUICKHITS, that's QUICKHITS, for 10% off anything on MojoBreakShop.com. They also have a full-service card shop in Santa Clara, California. So if you're in the area, stop by. They're open 7 days a week, so check them out at MojoBreakShop.com. All right, let's talk about the 41st National in Chicago. Hopefully you got to go like I did. Very, very busy. The National said, without releasing actual figures, said it was the second most attended National. First day was the most attended ever on day one, Wednesday. And it was very busy. I will say this as someone who was, likes to buy some cards at shows when I'm not there as a dealer. It was actually very hard, especially on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, to really get some showcase time right in front of a showcase. You sort of had to wait your turn, or a lot of times if you saw an opening, you kind of had to quickly fill that spot. I like to look through, dollar boxes, $5 boxes, $10 boxes. That space was at a premium. It was hard to get into those areas. I mean, I went to the singles club, which is the way they have that set up is really ideal, so that you don't really have to fight too many people off there. That's a great opportunity, especially at $1 a card. But it was hard to navigate it, as a buyer to in front of certain cases. You had to sort of wait your turn, and nothing wrong with that. I'm not complaining, but it was just that busy that sometimes you almost felt like when you're waiting, you almost felt like you were eavesdropping, watching someone else while you tried to get in there. But if it was a case you definitely wanted to see, I waited and bided my time as you're required to do. But it was packed. It was hot. That's what happens. Not complaining. This was the first time I went for the whole week. My feet are still barking at me, saying thanks for putting us in that predicament. But it's a great time. And listen, it's a card show. It's so many layers to what the National really is, right? Obviously, it's the biggest card show of the year. I've coined it the Super Bowl of the hobby, but it's also a networking event, right? It's what event each year is going to have the most people from the hobby attending it? It's the National. And so when you want to meet your friends and people you've met online, in many cases for the first time, maybe not the first time, the Nationals become that place, right? And then we see all these events off the National, off-site, right? And I'm not talking about Cubs or White Sox. I'm talking about hobby events. Many of the companies had private, VIP parties. I even noticed many of the new companies did these, private parties, which is a great way to expose your company, invite folks that you want maybe to invest or be involved. It's a great networking opportunity. I went to a couple. I was invited to more, but I'm getting old in my old age, so it's hard for me to do everything, but tried to make my attendance at a few. Another stat from the National, 47% of the tickets sold were people attending their first National. I knew that number was going to be high. I did not know that number was going to be that high. Think about that, 47%. That's almost half of the people in the building, just slightly half, less than half, where everyone was attending their first National. I think that's a testament, folks, to where the hobby is. A lot of new entrants, a lot of new blood, as they like to say, new money, however you want to phrase it. I think that's good. I think that's good. We need people in the hobby for the hobby to thrive and go forward. If we were losing more people than we were gaining, the hobby, maybe some people would like that. Hey, cost, things will come down. I can just buy whatever I want. I get that. But if you really, really care about the hobby, you want it to thrive and survive. And we've seen in the past what can happen when a lot of people leave the hobby. We've seen this. This is not unprecedented. So I don't wish for that. I don't hope for that. And I welcome anyone new, whether they're coming in to quick flip or they're coming in for the long haul. We all can enjoy the hobby in different sort of ways. But that 47%, going back to that number is a real indicative of where we are with the hobby. Still strong. Will all of those 47% stay for the long haul? No. Let's be honest. That doesn't happen in any hobby or any business, right? People leave, people change jobs, people quit jobs, people quit hobbies. But that's a very high number, and it's a very strong indicator of how strong the hobby is, even with some prices kind of correcting and leveling off, if you will. So the hobby is still very strong. Some on the floor observations. Well, like everything else in the hobby blowing up, content creation has blown up exponentially as well. Now, I will say this: I expected to see more cameras on the floor of people, live footage, shooting live. And there was some. Don't get me wrong. There was some. I expected to see a lot more. So I don't know if it was because of maybe the size of the building. Maybe there was more, but it was spaced out well enough. But, as someone who went to the Dallas show a few months back, there was cameras at every turn. I didn't feel that as much here with the National. There was cameras and people filming, but not as much as I kind of envisioned prior to attendance. But content creation is alive and well, and a lot of new people entering the arena. What else are we seeing a big influx of? Selling platforms, right? Places to buy and list cards, to do live breaks and auctions, and so now if you're entering the hobby now, you have multiple different platforms you can sell your inventory on. Plenty of avenues, and reminds me back in the day, when there wasn't, it was eBay and maybe a message board, AOL or Net54. Our options were limited. Now there's no shortages of places to sell and buy into breaks, and so for those who are thinking about doing it full time, it's not easy, but you have more opportunities than you ever had prior. Speaking of new people or young people, and just being young doesn't mean you're new, so I don't want to put those two together, but I see a lot of that. The demographic, I think, age 20 to 35, I think is probably the biggest represented demographic I saw in Chicago. And I was pleasantly surprised at that age demographic. I saw a lot of them buying and interested in vintage cards. And it's not the demographic you traditionally think would be. They would be more the shiny new, but I did, and majority are, but I saw a lot of interest towards vintage cards, which was good to see. Someone who maybe wasn't around during that time take an interest in the past of cards and of sports, and research and learn about players, and then obviously in turn buy some cards of those players. And that was a nice surprise. Walking the floor, plenty of transactions going down. Here's one of my most favorite things about this year's National. Lots of kids. I saw more kids in 2021 than I saw in 2019. It's not even debatable. And not just kids maybe being dragged with their mom or dad or anything like that. These were active kids, whether it was opening packs, buying cards out of the showcases, looking through those $1, $5, $10 boxes. Those kids were active in the hobby. And if you know anything about me, you know that warms my heart, and it's very important. Some will argue it's not as important as I make it out to be. We can debate that for hours, but I was really glad to see kids active in the hobby to that level on the grandest stage every year. Was really, really heartwarming to see that. And I saw one young man. I don't know anything about him. I'm going to guess on his age, probably 12, maybe 13 at tops age. And I was looking at a showcase. He had some cards out from the dealer that he was looking at, and he made a purchase, $1,000. So, young man, making $1,000 transaction, and someone said, "Man, how you look at it, right?" I thought it was great. The young man looked at the card, probably did a little haggling, learning the art of the deal at a very young age. I think that's a skill that shouldn't be poo-pooed. And made a transaction. I think he bought 2 or 3 cards that equaled to the $1,000 he offered. Dealer said yes, and boom, deal was made, and that young man got 3 cards that were very nice and that he wanted to obtain. And I saw deals along those lines. I saw some bigger ones go down with adults. It was a lot of transactions going down, and the dealers I spoke to, as a fellow dealer, you ask, how's it going? Or I heard someone else ask them, how's it going? And I heard a lot of best show I've ever had kind of deal. And so I heard a lot of that. It was sort of a little different than what I heard in Dallas, where dealers were like not even looking at people selling their cards on the other side of the table. Now that was going on. The other thing I saw a lot of were trade cash deals, where it's a real big time expensive card, and the person wanting it says, "Hey, I don't have enough cash to buy it, but will you take a cash card combo? Here's my cards if you wanna, and I got this much cash I could put towards that." I saw a lot of those type deals, which those are great too. That's a transaction just the same. I saw a lot of just trades. Hey, I want that one big card. Would you be interested in maybe 3 or 4 cards for the one? And I saw a lot of those deals go down, and that's just in walking around in a limited litmus test, if you will. So a lot of transactions on that floor. Heard a lot of dealers raving about how well they were doing, and so that's a good sign. That's a good sign for the hobby, irregardless of what you might hear in other places. The hobby's doing okay, and it's okay for prices to come down too. That's not always an indicator of hobby strength. That's just a correction in what people are willing to pay. The other thing I've seen the rise of is something that many years ago we frowned upon in the hobby, right? Back in my store days, people would come in with some rookie cards. I live in a baseball city, and they're like, "Hey, I'm going to bring these to the game and try to get them autographed," right? And in the hobby, it was like, don't get rookie cards signed, right? Because it devalues the rookie card that's written on now, even though it's the actual player's autograph. If you were going to grade it, they're gonna penalize you for the writing on the card and downgrade the card condition. And so it was a thing in the hobby where not just me, but it was like, don't get rookie cards signed. Get other second, third, fourth year cards signed. That way you don't devalue the rookie card. That has changed. It is a big business now with graded, authenticated, signed rookies. I saw double-digit cases just dedicated to this genre, and the prices of those cards are through the roof. In other words, a Brooks Robinson signed auto card, easily 4 figures, where Brooks Robinson, regular rookie grade, it's just not as high. And so that market has completely did a 180. There is a tremendous demand for graded, signed rookie cards, especially of vintage players, but not just relegated to vintage players, even modern day. And there are showcases dedicated to this, I don't know if you want to call it phenomenon, but genre now. And it's something I really never thought, and again, I didn't realize this just now at the National, but going to the National and seeing how many showcases were dedicated to that sort of card is what surprised me. I knew it was a thing, but I didn't realize it was that big of a thing now. So rookie cards, signed and slabbed, authentic auto, and the card itself is a huge thing. I know I met a person or two that told me that's what they do now. That's really their hobby. That's all they do now. They don't open cards. They got rid of a lot of stuff, and they just collect, Hall of Fame rookie cards autographed by said player and slabbed. And it's a huge thing, and something the younger version of me in the hobby wouldn't have ever seen coming. But we could say that, or I could say that about a lot of things, right? When I was younger and opening packs, right? I didn't want my buddies opening my packs. Those are mine. Get your own type of deal, right? And now we have break-in, right? Where people are opening your packs for you and sending you what you get, right? What they pull. And if you would have told me that back then, that would be a thing. I would have thought you're crazy. So the hobby, as we all know, evolves, changes. Most of it for the better. Not all, but most of it for the better. So it was a great National. I hope you enjoyed it just as well as we look forward to Atlantic City in less than a year now. All right. Thank you for listening to another episode of Hobby Quick Hits. Want to give out our social media, starting with our website, which is www.sportscardnationpodcast.com. Facebook, you can follow us at www.facebook.com/sportscardnationpodcast/ Twitter, we are at sportscardnat1, so it's sportscard NATI1. Instagram at sportscardnationpodcast, or you can email the show hobbyquickhits@gmail.com. Again, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.